of being cannibals. So in other words, these right-wingers, and the President Obama would be very careful about this, throwing in with Cameron and the right-winger Hopper on this chemical weapons deal, because the problem right now is who verified the chemical weapons. Well, the CIA, NSA people, but they, as they say, as LBJ would say, are lower than scum on the rock at this point in time. Nobody believes what they say, and that is the problem. When your propaganda is not believable, they have been able to hoodwink the American people so far, but how long will they be able to do the hoodwinking? That's the problem right there. This thing is falling apart by the day. Now, you'll have an internal situation going where the American people will believe it, but the people in the world will not believe it. So that's a situation that they find themselves on the eve of this so-called G8 conference. Putin is not going along with the program, and no matter what Dick Cheney says, nobody listens to him because he's been proven to be a known liar on WMD. See, this is one of the problems, unfortunately, we have in American politics, that the American people are hoodwinked time after time. In our entry to this, we have a brief thing with Bob Schieffer with the longest-serving Congress person talking about the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, and that's one of the votes that he regretted. So we have those kinds of situations going on, and that was where LBJ them phoned up the evidence against Hanoi. Why are the American people so vulnerable to these things, such as this supposed firing on American ships in the Gulf of Tonkin? Never happened. It was sailors out there shooting at fishes, LBJ later said. But this was able to give him authority to prosecute a war that thousands of Americans lost their lives in. So the American people should, that's one incident. The second incident, WMD, they should know now not to believe these characters. Literally. So this goes on, and we go on. This is Boston Red on the 17th day of June, 2013. As the poet laureate of Newark, New Jersey, L.A. Bill Graham would say, peace out, good day.
As well, just as me, what should I take away from these revelations that you have brought out this week? What's important here?
There are two really big questions here, and one is about secrecy, and one is about the extent to which the government can look in on our lives as well as everybody else's. And what we've seen here is that we're living behind a one-way mirror in which there is a very powerful surveillance apparatus that is capable of finding out pretty much anything about us. And they tell us, don't worry, we're protecting your privacy. And there are other people here also behind the one-way mirror who are watching us, but we don't get to participate in what the rules should be. And when Congress authorized this, Congress passed a fairly opaque law. The key parts here are about a couple of paragraphs, which is, I'd say, equivalent to clicking yes on the terms of service when you sign up for Google. You don't know what they're going to do with the information. You don't know what they're collecting in any kind of detail. And then there's a secret interpretation by the executive branch, highly classified. This is what we think this lets us do. And then a secret court, which hears only from the government, issues a secret opinion. Yes, you may do that. And then the whole program itself is secret. So it's a question of how much we want to trust our government. And we were founded on the idea that you don't want to entrust the government with too much centralized power.
Well, has the government done anything illegal, as it were?
I have no reason to think that anybody has violated this sequence of secret laws. What we haven't had a chance to do is decide as a society where we want to draw the boundaries and what the laws should be, because we don't even know what they are.
Peggy?
Oversight. That means the people we elect to Congress, the oversight committees, the intelligence committees, but others as well. But yet, every time one of these stories breaks, Bart breaks a story, you have members on the Hill saying, I didn't really know about this, or I didn't
That's
know
right.
as much about it as I should have. So either the government's not, or the executive branch is not telling them what they should, or they're not paying enough attention. And so when we have members come out and say, well, I want to know how many terrorist investigations this has stopped to know whether it's worthwhile or not, that's something they should know already. And the fact that they don't is is one of the major problems here. If you had Democrats and Republicans come out and say, listen, I disagree with this person and everything else, but I can vouch for you that we have been robust and we have vetted this, and this is why we're not concerned, that'd be great. And if we could get some of those secret protocols out there in the public, and there have been groups that have been suing to get them out, and we could see how these programs truly run, that would go a long way to letting, I think, people be reassured.
Can I just say a word about oversight here? Because I think it's important to get this. Aside from the members of the intelligence committees, there is something near zero members of Congress who have a member of their staff who is cleared to know anything about this. And yeah, there's a locked room on Capitol Hill where any member can go in and spend a week sitting in there reading through unbelievably complicated and voluminous sort of reports about how they're doing what they're doing, and the number of members who do that is zero.
Yes.
Well, let me just bring Rick in here, because I want to ask you about this. I mean, what the government would say in response to the argument that you all are making is, look, we can't tell you, we can't give you the justification of why we're doing things a certain way, because if we do, we'll give away something that we don't want the people that are working against us to know about. I mean, I said this in the interview when McDonough, Ronald Reagan said trust but verify. I think we're being asked to trust, but they can't give us the things we need to know to verify that. But is that important, and how do we resolve that?
You know, Bob, as you said, there's a kind of catch-22 quality to this. The government says we can't tell you this, and the courts say we can't let you know about this, so therefore you have to kind of go with us. But I would go back to Bart's point about the point of service contract, right? What we really need as a nation is a point of service contract for what the government relationship is to all of our privacy. What are we willing to sacrifice in terms of our own privacy to guarantee or have the kind of security that we want? And this discussion is the most robust discussion. That's where the overlap between what Bart's reporting is and what Ed Snowden says as well, is that people need to know where to draw the line. And I think, even to go back to what Peggy was saying, the problem with this all now is that technology is eclipsing the way the courts can process this, the way the Congress can process this, and what is private now and what is not private. It's different than it used to be.
But we have surrendered that already in many cases, just as Bart says. I mean,
we
people put on Facebook now what my
Right.
generation wouldn't have discussed in mixed
Yes,
company.
the whole notion of privacy.
So is
Right.
it wrong for a government or an employer or anybody else to look at? It's just like me going out on the street and saying something. That's pretty much
The
part
whole
of
notion of
public
And the
record.
thing is, in
Saying.
our cover story this week, we have a poll. We asked Americans, how do people feel about this? And one of the reactions was about 55% of people said, we kind of thought this was going on already. There's a little bit of the, Inspector Renault quality. Is there gambling going on in Casablanca? I'm shocked by that. That is the kind of the reaction of the American public. They assumed this was going on.
But the notion of privacy is shifting, too. It's partly generational. People who are growing up living on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and everything else, I think have less a presumption of privacy because they're giving it up voluntarily. And at the same time, we don't get into this conversation much, but corporations are already doing, to a large degree, what people are fearing the government is doing.
You know,
So we're living in a
let
stooping
Bart
state.
make his point.
There's something to be said for all this and changing social norms about privacy. But the real issue is not whether we assume that the government is doing something and not whether people just sort of generally assume that Facebook is doing something. It's not what you give to Facebook. It's what Facebook is taking from you without your knowledge. No matter how many times I, as a fairly informed person on this, read the terms of service, I don't know what's happening, what data is being extracted from me. And the president says he wants a real debate here. And he says, but don't worry, your privacy is being protected. We're not listening, we're just collecting your metadata. Well, if you gave me a choice, because it takes a long time to actually listen to your phone conversations, so let's suppose they're willing to dedicate, in an extreme case, 3 weeks of government time to listen to everything I say and everything I write for those 3 weeks. I would much rather let them do that than let me have my metadata, which can tell who my confidential sources are, where I go, when I go there.
By
all
just
that.
tracing the phone numbers.
Yeah, all
that
you
you're
need to. I
calling.
mean, you can draw this graph of sort of my whole movement through space and time, who I'm talking to, whether I'm going to Alcoholics Anonymous or which church I go to or whatever.
A few points. One is, in terms of the bulk data, there was an NSA whistleblower a while back, William Binney. He said, we've got so much data now, we can't even analyze it. A, it's unanalyzable. B, oversight is a problem. Excuse me, we have a Congress that is only working 3 days a week when it is in session. They're barely there. You know all the things they're going to. They are not taking 3 hours as a rule to sit down and study what the government is doing in terms of surveillance. As a matter of fact, the other day, the government, under pressure with the breaking Snowden story, went to senators and said, please come in, we'll have a little top secret meeting with you. 47 of them showed up. Only 47 of them. So I sort of think the FISA courts can't deal with the sheer level of material. They have to trust people. Congress, their oversight capability.
With all your guilt, so give it all you got. I had my share, and I drank my fill. Even though I'm satisfied, I'm hungry still to see what's down another road beyond the hill and do it all again. So here's to life. And every joy it brings. So here's to life, to dreamers and a dream. Funny how the time just flies. I love you go say goodnight and leave you with the memories you left behind to keep your winters warm. Oh, I gotta tell you. There's one yesterday. Oh, thank you so much.
Get the first word. I said you are a great lady.
Well, thank you so very much, sir. It takes one to know one.
I've been admiring yours for a long time.
Thank you. He has great eyes. So there's no yes and yesterday. And who knows what tomorrow brings or takes away. As long as I'm still in the game, I'm gonna play the last life of love. So here's to life Lord.